Hello folks, welcome to OTD, also known as On the Deck, where you can get all the sports you need in 10 minutes. My name is Adam Orduna. This is my mom, Gina.
He is a journalist.
She's the enthusiast.
Of course, I'm enthusiastic. It's football season.
Yes,
so there you go.
It's also Throwback Thursday for us today.
What are you rocking?
Yeah, I'm Rocco Ware. This is a Jay-Z brand from Rock Nation. This is a brand that I think he still has some, clothes out there, but this is one of my older shirts, Rocco Ware. And so I wanted to bring it out today for Throwback Thursday. What do you got
This
wearing?
was a station that I helped build back in Omaha, Nebraska. Yes, there are black people in Nebraska. It was a hip-hop and R&B station. This was one of our first swag jerseys we wore, so I brought that back out today.
Well, that's awesome. You look great in it. And
so do you.
Wearing our Throwback Thursday attire today, and we're going to talk about college football as we've got some games going on tonight, and this is week 3. Or week 4 for some people.
Technically week 4,
but it is week 3 officially for college football. And so we're going to get into that today. We're going to talk about some of the games here within the top 25 and really just ask the big question whether or not this is kind of a cupcake week or kind of a gotcha trip you up week. And so we have our own thoughts on that, so we'll kind of list that here. I'm going to go through like the first couple here. You'll go through a couple on your end here, and then I'll finish it up.
Perfect.
And we'll kind of get started there. But I'm just happy because we're talking about college football.
Me too.
And it's what
we made it through the dead weeks of the summer.
Man.
Now we're talking about college football.
Right.
So let's get it.
All right. So week 3, we've got Alabama taking on Colorado State. We've got Oklahoma and Tulane. Clemson at Louisville, which is going to be a huge game. USC and Texas. We've got Penn State and Georgia State. We also have Washington and Fresno State as well. We've got Michigan at Air Force, or Michigan versus Air Force. Ohio State and Army, and then Oklahoma State and Pittsburgh.
And then you have Wisconsin at BYU, LSU at Mississippi State. Florida's got a bye, but then you've got Georgia versus Samford. You've got obviously the Clemson Louisville. We talked about that, but then Auburn versus Mercer. Va Tech at Eastern Carolina.
Yes, ECU. Yeah, Eastern Carolina.
Miami's also on a bye because of the hurricane. K-State at Vanderbilt, and Stanford at San Diego State.
Right. Those are some interesting games as well. Then TCU and SMU, kind of the Battle of Dallas there.
Yep.
You got Washington State and Oregon State. Kind of see how that one plays out. South Florida, Illinois. That's one to kind of look at as well. Tennessee at Florida. And then because they're 22 and 24, or 23 and 24, so those two kind of take place of each other. Then UCLA and Memphis.
At Memphis. And I don't know who Utah plays because a few people had Utah in there, but who cares?
Yeah, and it kind of flip-flops at the bottom.
But who cares? So I think your question was, is this, I called it Cupcake Week, and you said this could be one of those upset or trip you up weeks.
Yes, definitely. So what are your thoughts on the cupcake situation? Why are you kind of thinking that it could be like this for this week?
Well, here's what I do like about college football is we've started having opening week, having big games like Texas and who did they play that first week?
Well, Texas and Maryland was yes, and then
I think you had Alabama played somebody good this year.
Yes.
Florida State, Alabama,
Florida State, and then the year before that, USC and Alabama.
Right.
There's some big games.
And then even week 2, you had Oklahoma, Ohio State. So college football is figured out from a ratings perspective. They don't have preseason, but if you use those first 2 or 3 weeks where you're playing St. Mary the DePore against your national champion, nobody wants to watch that. So the first 2 weekends have been scheduled with good games. Right. Not everybody, but like 4 or 5 games we could highlight each week. But now we're into week 3, and some of those teams like Alabama who've taken on bigger games are having your games against Colorado State. Now, I don't want to... Colorado State is not St. Mary the Poor. That's a good program up there. They do play good football, but they're not in the same league as Alabama. Sure. So what you're going to see this week are some group of 5 teams. You're going to see some, a few FCS teams. So to me, it is a bit of the cupcake week because out of the top 25, there's only a couple of ranked teams playing each other.
Right.
So that's why it's kind of the cupcake week. There should not, to me, I don't think you're going to see any surprises this week. But your opinion is that there could be.
Yeah, to your point, I think it is true. On paper, you would say that Ohio State and Army should be a walkthrough game. You would think that
Michigan and Air Force.
Right, Michigan and Air Force. But to me, I wouldn't necessarily call that one quite so much a cupcake. But I would think that some of these games, you would say that, hey, yeah, within the top 25 at least, some of these games, aren't really games that you would call great games. Colorado State,
Georgia,
Alabama.
and Samford.
Right.
Not Stanford, Samford.
Right. But for me, I kind of feel like this is kind of the midweek games. I feel like this week, week 3, is already kind of like a midweek scheduled week, because you've got teams that are pretty, middle of the road, I guess you could say, but like the dominant teams would probably win 8 out of 10 times.
Right.
But this is one of those situations where these teams, this could be that two
This could be the 2 out of 10 times
where they could get them. I'm looking at take for instance the Air Force Michigan game.
Okay.
Air Force runs that military style of option, kind of the spread option under the center, but the triple option, and that's really hard to defend. Air Force always finds their way in the top 25 throughout the years, and Michigan has not looked very good this year up to this point. Their quarterback play has been very inconsistent, and their defense has really been the only thing keeping them in it. There's another game out there. I would like to say that Fresno State and UW. Fresno State, one of their big claims to fame is that they're always one of the teams will play you anytime, anywhere, at any time. So I think UW, obviously on paper, should beat them, just like Alabama beat Fresno State handily last week.
Right.
But UW is a team that I think could maybe be on that watch list. And so you've got games within the top 25 that obviously Clemson and Louisville, who are really good. The Florida-Tennessee matchup is going to be nice to watch. And there's a couple others out there. The K-State-Vandy game will be interesting. But I do think there are some teams out there that if you don't play well, you could get tripped up. And as to your point, the first 2 weeks generally are the bigger weeks, or for some schools. Not every school is playing the top teams, but for some schools, you kind of have your letdown week because you have played these big schools and you're like, hey, we should win, should be able to roll over, and then a team like a Fresno State could potentially get you. So.
Well, I think you do make a good point, because I do still think this is cupcake week. But to your point, if you're going to win 8 or 9 times out of 10, this could be the 1 or 2 times, because there is a letdown.
Yeah.
You've had big games on national TV. You've had College Game Day out there.
Yeah.
So this could be your trip-up letdown.
I just don't see a lot of K-State played Charlotte last week. There are not a lot of FCS schools up there that these teams are playing. And so these are all teams that have had winning seasons, winning programs.
But Samford is an FCS, right?
Samford is, but there aren't a lot of those up there.
Loaded.
It's not loaded, where you got teams like Eastern Carolina who are in the AAC.
I love the Pirates.
You got some of your lower, like Pitt is in the lower half of the ACC. Illinois is in the lower half of the Big Ten. These are schools. San Diego State. This is a team that can challenge you. And so if you look at it at that perspective, you still got to play. These aren't.
So these are still games you're saying worth watching, even if it's upset alert worth watching.
And on paper, to your point, yeah, you would probably sit there and say, yeah, Penn State, Georgia State should be a walkthrough. There are Mercer is not a FBS school. So all of these schools for the most part should win their games. I would agree with that. But there are some games out there that if you don't play, Michigan, Air Force, if you don't come out and play,
if you sleep, it might be that
Air Force
Iowa game for you.
Will get you exactly.
Yeah,
so. But it's going to be an exciting weekend.
Well, there's a couple of games that are ranked and some that aren't, that are worth watching. So obviously, number 3 Clemson versus number 14 Louisville with the returning. You got the reigning national champions versus the reigning Heisman Trophy winner. So who do you call in that? What do you think?
Top to bottom, Clemson's probably a better team, but the it factor right now, I don't know if Clemson quite has that yet, and I think right now Lamar Jackson is as hot as he's going to be right now, and so I think they're going to have their hands full with Louisville. So I'm actually going to pick the upset, and I'm going to go Louisville.
Are you going Louisville?
Yes.
Okay. Well, it is at Louisville, which I do think is an advantage. But I'm going to go with the overall top to bottom team, so I'm going to pick Clemson.
Okay.
The other game is USC, who is ranked, versus Texas, who got spanked the first week, bounced back last week. Tom Herman, I think, has a lot to prove.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in that game. Number 4 USC versus Texas. So Texas has to go to the Coliseum. Who do you think for that? Yeah,
this is a rematch of the 2006 National Championship game. I'm always trying to pick a Big 12 team, so I'm going to stick with Texas here. I think Texas is going to have their hands full because USC is trying to not have what happened with Michigan or Western Michigan that first week, and I think they've made some vast improvements. I'm not sure about Texas yet because they didn't play much of a competition in San Jose State last week, but I'm going to still stick with Texas because I got to root for the Big 12.
Here's the funny part. This is the first time we're not on agreement. I think USC is going to spank them, and bad. I think Tom Herman is going to get a wake-up lesson. All right, K-State and Vandy real quick, just a couple of more. Obviously, K-State's on a win streak. We're ranked 18th. Vanderbilt is unranked, but you're at Vanderbilt. It's your first real test because we had Charlotte last week and nobody State the week before. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, Central Arkansas and Charlotte didn't give K-State much of a test. I think K-State's going to have their hands full being in Nashville. I do think they are a better football team and better coach, so I am going to go with K-State, but I think Vandy's going to give them a good run there.
I think this will be a close game for a while, but K-State's going to take it over. And then last but not least, Tennessee and Florida, number 23 and 24. I'm going to go Tennessee on this.
I'm also going to go Tennessee. I don't think Florida has it quite figured out yet, and this will be a big win for Tennessee, and we'll see what happens, but I'm going to go with Tennessee as well.
There you go.
So this is week 3 of college football. We're really excited because we're going to be glued to the TV every weekend from here on out until the national championship game.
And don't miss the Charlie Strong, Lovie Smith matchup too.
Yes,
South Florida and Illinois.
Yeah, that's going to be another good game. Exactly. Well, we want to say we appreciate your time, folks, and we'll see you again. Thanks for watching.